There'll come a time when the world won't be singing, flowers won't grow, bells won't be ringing. Who really cares? Who is willing to try to save a world that is destined to die? Marvin Gaye. We are here to discuss a most critical and urgent issue, an issue that crosses across many issues, including genocide, including rape, including the poisoning and the smothering of lives and dreams and hopes and aspirations. We're here to discuss environmental racism and how it exists inside a whole program of colonization and apartheid and colonialism in the 21st century. Yes, Judge.
I was told that they were in place. Let me find it out.
What's that?
Are we in place?
Oh, we've been translating.
We've been doing it. Have you not heard it?
Judge has asked.
Oh, we're doing it.
We've been starting. We were.
Oh man, John said it was Marvin Gaye for nothing. We could have just listened to Marvin Gaye.
Okay, and as far as judges missing?
¿Se escucha la traducción? Hemos estado traduciendo. Chucho,
sí, sí, se escucha.
Gracias.
Donc tout à l'heure, c'était une citation de Marvin Gaye, qui parlait d'un monde où la vie ne serait plus là, où les...
Mr. Connemar, any word on our missing judges?
I have someone who's collecting them now as we speak.
Collecting judges.
I don't know what's your pleasure. I don't know if we should wait. I don't know what the time constraints are. If we should wait for them.
We should proceed.
Proceed.
All right.
Yes.
We will. Ms. Hill, please proceed.
Yes, Judge. This morning, Your Honors and members of the gallery, brothers and sisters, we have testimony that will show that the state of New Orleans must be indicted for violating the rights of its citizens, particularly those of African descent, for ignoring altogether their right to be free from race discrimination, ignoring altogether their right to return, their right to life, their right to adequate housing and living. This case specifically is against some of the federal agencies that are the major actors, including Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the federal government itself. It is personalized through the President of the United States and all of the cabinet members that are in collusion. And so now we present testimony from witnesses who will talk specifically about how environmental racism played out before Katrina and after Katrina, before Rita and after Rita. The first witness that we're bringing forward at this time is Brother Haki Vincent, and we will ask that he take the stand at this moment. And Your Honors, I will advise you at this time that Brother Vincent is here as a victim of Hurricane Rita, and he will talk specifically about the atrocities and the devastation that occurred after that natural storm, which was turned unnatural by the U.S. government. Before we begin, I will swear you in at this time. Mr. Vincent, would you raise your right hand? Do you affirm that you will testify truthfully today in this tribunal?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Would you state your full name for the record?
General Aki Kazi Vincent.
And Mr. Vincent, where are you from?
I'm from Mossville, Louisiana.
And Mossville, Louisiana, where is that located in relationship to New Orleans?
Mossville is about halfway between New Orleans and Houston, Texas.
And how long have you lived in Mossville, Louisiana?
Well, I've lived there since '77.
And where do you currently reside?
I still reside in Mossville.
And have you lived there before Rita and after Rita?
Yes, I have.
And would you describe for us the conditions under which you live at this time?
There are still horrible conditions. The only thing that have changed about the conditions is the government have cleaned up their streets and their buildings and whatnot, but the people are still living in the same conditions. We still have a lot of debris in our yards. We still have blue plastic roofs on our houses. A lot of the houses are still boarded up, and the damages are still as they were right after Rita came through.
And, Your Honors, I'd like to turn your attention to Exhibit 1, which is the booklet that is at the very front of your exhibit packet. It is this document that I'm holding up at this time. And I'll refer you to page 10 of that document, and again, it's being marked into evidence as Exhibit 1. The quote on the left-hand side with the picture of Mr. Vincent. For several generations, my family has grown our own vegetables and fruits. But now, because the industries have poisoned the soil, I grow my vegetables in pots using organic soil that I have to buy. Poisoned soil means poisoned food and poisoned bodies. I believe in healthy eating, but it is expensive to buy organic food. In Mossville, organic food was our way of life before the industries came. And that is your quote, is it not, Mr. Vincent?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell us what you mean when you say, in Mossville, organic food was our way of life before the industries came? Can you tell us what you mean by that statement?
Yes, I can. My foreparents, ancestors, lived in Mossville in the 1800s, and they were known for growing nice, large vegetables and fruits and sharing with the neighbors. But as industries developed and grew, more pollution was dumped on Mossville, so the food was unable to grow properly and got to be unedible.
And when you say and explain and describe this particular condition, is this a pre or post Rita condition?
This is a pre-Rita condition.
And now that Rita has come, what are the conditions now?
Now that Rita have come, the conditions are a lot worse, because when Rita came through, it did demolish portions of the industries, and a lot of more poison was spread by Rita and the winds and the rains. So we are more inundated with poison now.
And to illustrate that further, Your Honors, I'd ask you to turn in the same exhibit to page 18. And again, reading on the left with where Mr. Vincent's picture is displayed. He says, who is in control? Is it not the government? It is not the government, but it is industrial corporations. I and other Mossville residents have learned to use air monitors and brought the test results showing high levels of pollution to the agencies, but the agencies say they can't stop issuing permits to the facilities. I've tried to stop the government from cutting a road through my property so that more trucks loaded with the industry's toxic products can travel. It's up to us to take back control to save our community of Mossville. And I would ask you, Mr. Vincent, in reference to this quote, when you talk about the air monitoring that was done and the samples that were brought to the agencies, which agencies are you referring to?
Well, we're talking about ATSDR, EPA, and all of the government agencies who's supposed to be checking the amounts of pollution that are being put out, but in actuality, they are married up with the industries, and they couldn't care less about the community because they're profiting from the industries' exploitation and oppression of the communities.
Now, you mentioned two agencies. You mentioned ATSDR, and for the record and for the judge's understanding and clarification further, that is Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. And you also mentioned EPA, which is Environmental Protection Agency.
Yes.
Did you also take those samples to the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality?
Yes, we did, and we also took charges against the industries and the government for environmental racism to Geneva, Switzerland, and brought charges against them for dumping poison on us in '99.
And that was in 1999 when you went all the way to Geneva.
Yeah, we had a delegation to go to Geneva and bring charges against the government and these agencies for environmental racism.
And now in 2007, do you see any changes in level of accountability?
No changes in the level of accountability, only changes in the amount of money they're making by poisoning us.
And if you would, just for a little longer, can you give us some names of some of the chemical plants that coexist in your community at this time?
Well, they have Georgia Gulf, Conoco, PPG, Sasor, and quite a few others. Totally, they have 14 plants surrounding Mossville, but in the area, which is called Cancer Alley, stemming from New Orleans on up to Houston, Texas, they have over 50-some plants that are dumping poison on the communities.
And how many residents live in Mossville, Louisiana?
Approximately 800.
And so it's your testimony that in a community of 800 citizens, there actually are 14 chemical plants surrounding that community.
That's right.
And of that number of 800, how many are children?
I would say there are maybe about 300 children.
Now, yesterday when we were prepping, you gave me a startling statistic that I'd like you to share with the judges and the members of the tribunal, and that was the statistic that you gave me around the issue of asthma. Can you tell us how many of the 300 children in Mossville have been diagnosed with asthma at this point?
I would say maybe 250.
And is this a pre- or post-Rita condition?
That's a pre-Rita condition.
And after Rita, how many children would you say have been diagnosed with asthma?
I would say all of them, just about all of them have been diagnosed.
And as long as we're on the subject of illnesses and especially these kinds of chronic illnesses, let's talk a little bit about cancer. Do you know of residents in Mossville who contracted cancer before Rita?
Yes, I do. I know quite a few, maybe 10 or more, who have died from cancer that was dumped on us from the industries.
And after Rita, how many fatalities do you know, how many people do you know personally who died from cancer after Rita?
Maybe about 7.
And the hospital facility in your area, what is the name of that facility?
We have one hospital named Moss Regional. It's a community hospital, a charity hospital.
And is it part of the same charity hospital system that was under investigation after Katrina?
Yes, it is.
And when you mentioned the company Conoco Oil, is that the same Conoco Oil that has the gas station pumps that people go to in the red and white sign that says Conoco?
That's right.
And it is the very same company that is a customer of Northrop Grumman Ship Systems out of Pascagoula, Mississippi?
Yes, it is.
Now, you mentioned that there is a road that leads to your house where the trucks come in to deliver the chemical poisons to the community. And you had little success in stopping that road from being used in such a way. Is that right?
That's right.
And what was the response that you were given in your efforts to stop that process?
Well, the response was that it's for public service, but in actuality, it's a road that connects all of these 14 or 15 plants together so they can have access to each other because they all work in harmony with each other.
And what was the public service that was being dispensed into the community?
There's really no public service. They took the road and called it for eminent domain, but it don't really serve the public. It only serves the industries, mostly large trucks with chemical and plant-related goods travel the roads.
And for the benefit of everyone, what were you made to understand about your rights under that eminent domain system?
I really had no rights. Either I had to let them have it or they would take it.
And who told you that if you didn't let them have it, they would take it?
The parish government backed up by the federal government.
Now let's talk a little bit about the parish government. Which parish are you in?
I'm located in Calcasieu Parish.
And who did you consult with in Calcasieu Parish about the road problem?
The police jurors in Calcasieu Parish.
Did you also consult with the zoning department?
And the zoning, yes.
And the Department of Transportation?
Department of Transportation also.
Let's take them one by one, shall we? Let's talk first about the police jury. What was their response to the problem?
Well, and actually, they wanted, they tried to force me actually to donate the land to them. And after they found out that I wasn't going to donate it, then they made an offer which was less than the amount of a candy bar for a square foot of land.
And when you say they made you an offer, did that offer come from the police jury?
Yes, it did.
And did they come to you personally to make that offer?
Yes, they did.
And were there officers that came to you to make that offer?
Yes.
And were they in police uniform?
Yes, they, most of them were in uniform, yes.
And were they armed?
Yes, they were.
And did you believe that at that time you had any choice except to surrender your land?
Well, it was very intimidating.
So is it your testimony that you believe that you had no choice?
Yes, I did.
Now the zoning department, what response did they give you?
The zoning department fell right in harmony with the rest of them. They wanted to commercialize the zone, so it was all a force issue as far as them wanting to obtain the land.
And did you at any point raise objections to the amount of money that you were given for your property?
Yes, I did.
What was the response that you were given?
The response was that they would take me to court and sue me for the land.
Were you represented by counsel at that time?
Yes, I was.
And did your representative force the issue of getting more money for you?
Oh, actually, my counsel capitulated, and he really was working for them.
And how did you come by this lawyer that was representing you?
Well, I went around town trying to find somebody who I felt that would represent me properly, and I found this particular lawyer, which did not do what I thought he was going to do.
And have you ever been offered any additional compensation to this day?
No, I haven't, but actually when they finally got the land, then they got in a big hurry to start cutting the road through, and they came in with bulldozers and stuff. I had sheds and different other things on the area that they were going to cut the road. They just took the bulldozers and things and pushed my sheds and equipment back to the portion of land that I still owned and commenced to do that work.
And after that happened, what condition was your land in when they completed their work?
It was in a condition like Rita had hit it, and that was before Rita came through.
And you say it was in a Rita-like condition. Did you complain about the way your land had been left?
Yes, I complained, but I got nothing but empty promises.
And who did you complain to specifically?
The police jury.
And when you say you got empty promises, what do you mean?
Well, they promised that they would come and look at it, and that was it. They never did.
And to this day, has anyone come back to offer you any assistance at all?
No, they haven't. And also, since the road has been there, it has started causing my land to erode, and I have been calling them to come out and inspect that situation, but I still haven't got a response from that either.
Okay. And that's been since they did the construction on your property.
Since they did.
There has been no response to
That's
this
right.
day. I want to talk a little bit about after Katrina. You mentioned that in Mossville there are 800 people living there before Rita, before Rita. 800
Yes.
people?
Yes.
How many would you say are living there now after Rita?
I would say maybe 500.
And how many people have been able to return to Mossville after Rita?
About a third of people have been able to return.
And those people that have returned, what have they returned to?
They've returned to houses that are still damaged, roofs that are leaking, boarded up windows, a lot of trees down in their yard, debris everywhere, and just horrible living conditions.
And is it your testimony that those individuals are actually living in those homes?
Yes, they are.
And are they attempting to repair their homes while they're living in them?
They are attempting to, yes, but we're not getting any help from any agencies at all.
And I suppose as anybody would ask, why would they be living in homes that are in disrepair?
Well, they are unable to afford to do anything else at this time.
Now, when they were away after the storm, they were living where?
They were living with relatives in Houston, Texas, and Shreveport, in Alexandria, and different locations away from this area.
And were they at any time offered any temporary housing back in Mossville?
No, they weren't. A few people got the some FEMA trailers, and that's about it.
And do you know people who currently live in FEMA trailers after Rita?
Yes, I do.
And are these the same FEMA trailers that are now confirmed to be infected with formaldehyde?
Yes, they are.
And you know people who are actually living in those conditions, being exposed to the carcinogen, cancer-causing agent known as formaldehyde?
Yes, I know one person personally who's in the hospital right now, and they have heart problems and and breathing conditions, not only from the formaldehyde, but from all the poison that these plants are dumping on the community.
And did that person that you know have those medical problems before Rita?
No, they didn't.
And they're in the hospital at this time?
Yes, they are. They were supposed to be here to testify, but the same day that they were supposed to come, they had a setback, and they had to be hospitalized.
And is the person that you're referring to Ms. Shirley Johnson?
Yes, it is.
And she was originally going to testify instead of you, is that right?
That's right.
And is it your testimony that she's currently in the hospital?
At this time, she is.
And is she suffering from any particular type of syndrome, do you know?
Yes, they diagnosed her with a heart problem and PTSD.
Would you spell out for us what those letters mean?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
And is that after Rita that she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder?
Yes, it was after Rita.
And how long has she been hospitalized?
I think today is the third day.
And would you please offer her our support and our prayers and thank her for agreeing to testify even though she was not able to be here today?
Yes, of course,
Thank
I
you.
will.
Now let's talk a little bit more about the so-called cleanup. Yesterday when you and I talked, you talked about the government cleanup that didn't exist. About the debris, what did the government do about the debris in Mossville
Well,
after Rita?
well, in Mossville, we have a lot of pits where dirt was removed and taken to the plants so the plants could expand, the refineries could expand. So we have over 20-some large gaping holes in our community. And after Rita, they took all of that debris that they picked up from all over Louisiana and brought it to these pits and buried them in the pits.
Now, lest we leave everybody confused, including myself, you said that there are several gaping holes that were existing in your community before Rita.
That's right.
And those holes, what was the purpose of those holes again?
The purpose was they dug the clay out of the ground to sell to the refineries for expansion purposes. They put those big tanks on beds of clay. So the pit diggers get land from the people in the community very cheap. They steal it actually, and they triple their money by digging the clay up and selling it to the refineries so the refineries can expand.
And so I'm trying to get a picture, since we don't have a visual. The holes that were in the community before Rita, gaping holes as you described them, were they covered in any way?
No, they were open holes.
And were they marked off as an area to proceed with caution or danger?
They're not marked off, they're not fenced off or anything. They're just holes that they left there after they took the dirt.
And how deep are those holes?
I would say maybe 15 or 20 feet deep.
So we're looking at holes that are open, that are not covered with any kind of covering like what we know, those of us who might have grown up in urban areas, to be manholes. Not even the covering like that was on these holes.
No, these holes are maybe about a couple of city blocks. That's the size of them.
And they're open, and children play in those areas.
Yes, they do.
And children live in those areas.
Yes, and a few children have drowned in them.
And when you say a few children have drowned in those holes, how did that happen?
Well, they may have been out there fishing or swimming or whatever, and actually fell in and drowned.
And was there anything done after those children drowned to make that area cordoned off?
No, nothing more was done, and they just keep digging more holes.
And were there any fences erected to keep the public away from those holes?
No fences, no signs, no anything.
And who's responsible for those holes?
The contractors that dig the dirt and the parish that give them the permits to do it are responsible.
Now, as we build our record toward indictment, can you name some of those contractors?
One of them is named David Abshire. He's a ex-police juryman, so he have a lot of clout in the area. He can do just about what he want to do.
And what is his race?
European white.
Do you know any other of the other contractors by name?
Not that I can recall right now.
Now, the holes are still there to this day, and there's been no plan to cover them at this point. Is that right?
That's right.
So your testimony is that in 2007, the condition after Rita remains the same.
Yes, they remain the same. The only holes that have been covered are the holes that they dumped the debris in. After they dump the debris in the holes, then they cover them with dirt.
Okay. Now, the dirt that's taken out of the community and taken for construction, that leaves the area with these gaping holes. Is that why the holes are there?
That's right.
And those are taken out by the companies that you mentioned earlier?
That's right.
And the community, has it not lodged complaints about these practices?
Yes, constantly.
And what has been the result of those complaints that have been lodged?
Well, they actually have fallen on deaf ears.
And when you say fallen on deaf ears, are you saying that not even a promise of repair or correction of the situation has occurred?
No, it haven't.
Now, before you took your seat, we were in another session called Cultural Rights. And I want to just talk briefly about one of the buildings that you know about that was destroyed in Mossville. It was a museum. Can you tell us a little bit about the museum that was destroyed after Rita?
Yes, I can. The museum was constructed out of a building that was left by our ancestors on our property. And when Rita came through, a big oak tree fell on the building. And we tried to get assistance to get the tree off of the building so we could do repairs, because we had a lot of arts and crafts and antique furniture in the building. It also was a business for Miss Shirley Johnson. And we went to churches and the government and everybody to try to get some help to get the tree off it, and we couldn't get it. So the parish, the police juryman, came past, inspected the building, and they put a condemned sign on it. They gave us 90 days or something in that time span to repair it or to tear it down. So we started repair work. And after this time frame they gave us passed, they came with the sheriff department and some contractors and some heavy equipment. They took the tree off of the building. They demolished the building and all the contents, and they hauled it off, and they left ruts in the ground. At the time we were out of town. When we came back, all we had was an empty lot with ruts all in the ground.
Now, is it your testimony that they removed the tree that you had asked to be removed before?
Yes, they removed the tree and left it right there on the property.
But prior to the time when they completely demolished your property, you had asked that the tree be removed, is that right?
That's right.
And no one would come and remove the tree?
No, they wouldn't.
But indeed, the tree was removed prior to condemnation?
Yes.
Now let's talk a little bit about notice. Were you given any written notice that the property was going to be torn down?
No, I was not. And after I found that it had been torn down, I contacted the parish, and they sent a code. He was supposed to be a code. I forget what it's called, but code inspector or code supervisor. And I talked to him and told him about the condition that they left when they took the building. And he said they didn't leave anything wrong. I told him there were ruts in the ground and we couldn't mow our lawn and whatnot. So he came out to inspect it. And when he came, he brought 5 carloads of sheriff department with him.
So are you saying that to come out to simply inspect a problem based on a complaint that you made, the sheriff's department brought several deputies with them?
Yes, they did.
And were those gentlemen in uniform at that time?
Yes, they were.
And were they armed at that time?
They were armed.
And as they approached your property, what did they do?
Well, as they approached the property, they stood around like they were, looking for some trouble. And they were very, they had a threatening posture about them.
And did they approach you at any time with that threatening posture?
They didn't approach me, but the code inspector, we talked, and he made some promises about bringing some dirt and straightening the ruts out. And I asked him about the house, and I asked him about did he know that there were contents in the house, and he told me that they didn't go in the house because it was too dangerous a situation to check. And that was about the basis of the conversation.
So just for clarification of the record, is it your testimony that nothing was removed from the house, from the museum, prior to the structure being completely torn down?
No, nothing was removed. We had tools in the house where we were working on it. We had a big railroad jack that we had started jacking the tree up off the house to take some of the pressure off the house. They demolished everything and took everything.
And let's talk about what was inside the house, since it was a museum. Can you tell us about some of the items that were in the museum on display at the time?
Yes, we had African culture, arts and crafts. We had antiques. We had supplies and tools.
And realizing you can't really place a monetary value on those items, but this is a proceeding where that issue might be addressed, can you tell us about how much monetary value was lost in that as a result of the destruction of those items?
Well, it's really hard to put a monetary value on them because it was a historical landmark and the house was left there by our ancestors. So it's hard to put, it's like, how much do they owe us for reparations?
That's really a good way to put it. And I'm going to press you a little bit further. When you talk about the artifacts, for instance, were there African masks in the museum?
Yes, all types of African wood-burning arts, carvings, paintings, it's all types of art.
And when you say paintings, were those original art paintings that had been...
Yes, they were.
And were they painted by black artists?
That's right. Most of them were done by myself and my sister. Most of it was family work.
And were those pieces donated to the museum for everyone to see as they came into the museum?
Yes, they were.
And are those pieces replaceable?
No, they're not.
Do you have prints of those pieces?
No, we don't.
And in terms of the African masks that were destroyed in the process, can those items be replaced?
No, they cannot.
The tools that were destroyed, are you able to replace those tools?
No, I'm not able to replace them.
And are you currently employed, Mr. Vincent?
No, I'm a disabled veteran from the Korean War. I'm on a fixed income, and I'm not able to financially do any of that.
And how were you disabled in the Korean War?
Well, I was disabled in the line of duty, and I was also additionally disabled in 1968 after Martin Luther King was killed. I was shot in Washington, D.C., the foundation of the axis of evil, by 2 white cops.
Were you there for a particular purpose when you were shot in Washington?
Well, I was living there at the time, and it was still burning from the fires after Martin Luther King was killed, so all the white cops were looking at us as terrorists, I guess.
And was anybody ever indicted or prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law as a result of that shooting?
No, they weren't, but I did file a suit against the D.C. government and the 2 cops, and I did get a judgment against them, which haven't been paid to today, not totally.
When did you get that judgment?
I got the judgment after they shot me June 6, '68, and I filed a suit against them for $2.5 million. And October the 10th, 1970, they came back to assassinate me because of the suit. And that's what they were doing at the time. For a lot of you young people that don't realize, they were assassinating freedom fighters while they were asleep in their bed before day in the morning. They tried that on me, but we had a shootout, and I shot one of them, and they charged me with 11-count indictment on 9 cops. And that happened on a Saturday morning. So the community came out and surrounded the cops. The cops had me surrounded in the house, and we negotiated for 3 hours. So we finally decided that they would take me downtown to be arraigned, but they couldn't. We agreed that they wouldn't go in my house and search until I went downtown to be arraigned. So we went downtown. One cop was driving the car. A lawyer was sitting in the front seat. Me and my brother was sitting in the back seat. We went downtown. We went before a judge by the name of Harry T. Alexander, and they were charging me with 11 counts of assault on 9 cops, and they wanted an outrageous bond for me to get out. After the judge listened to it, he gave me a personal bond, and I was back on the scene within about 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours.
And let me just ask you to clarify the record. When you were shot under the color of law by police officers, there was no indictment. Is that correct?
That's right.
And there was no criminal prosecution of those who shot you?
No, it wasn't.
And you also came back as a disabled war veteran. Is that right?
That's right.
I'd like to move on, because if we don't, we'll be stuck there. And it's a good place to be stuck for a while, but we have a time constraint, and your record that you're making now certainly connects with what we're getting ready to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about this road home benefit. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, it's a joke.
Tell us, it is a funny joke. Since it is so funny, can you tell us what road home benefit means? What is that?
Road home benefits? There are no benefits. It's only an empty promise, just like the government have been giving us ever since they raped us from Africa.
And road home benefit is a promise made by who?
The government, I suppose, and its cohorts.
And was that after Rita?
After Rita, yes.
And were you asked to fill out an application at any time to get those benefits?
Well, they had advertisement on radio and TV for people to come in to some location and fill out forms. That was on the media.
And how much were the grants supposed to be? Do you know?
I really don't know, no.
Okay.
But I do know people who did go and fill out the forms and whatnot, and they're still waiting.
And is it your testimony that those individuals went after Rita to fill out those forms?
Yes, after Rita.
And let the record reflect that Rita happened around September 1995, is that right?
That's right.
And so from that day to this day, they have not received any of those funds?
No funds, no help, no nothing.
Do you know anybody who has received road home benefits?
Nobody.
Do you know anybody in New Orleans who's received home benefits at this time?
No, I don't.
And your testimony is that no one in Mossville has ever received any of those benefits?
If they are, I don't know about it.
Okay. Now let's go on to talk a little bit more as we conclude your testimony, because we do have another witness, and I appreciate your indulgence. I know that you have had to deal with these disabilities for most of your adult life, and you're in a somewhat physical state of uncomfortableness right now. And are you okay to go on?
Yes, I'm okay.
Do you need any water or anything?
A little water would be good.
Okay, we'll get you that. We'll take a couple of seconds break to get you some water, please. Can we get some water? Apologize for not having that for you at the outset.
All right, thank you.
I know my manners, but I'm just rushing. Okay. Apple juice?
Yeah.
Even though it's a Coke product, we'll let them take it for now. Talk about that later. Minute Maid is a Coke product. Okay. Let's go on with the testimony. I always seem to get into trouble from digressing a little bit. I want to talk just a little bit more about the health effects. Earlier, we talked about cancer, and you indicated that you knew individuals who had died from cancer. The persons that you knew personally who died from cancer, what type of cancer did those individuals die from?
Ovarian cancer, lung cancer,
Thank you. Could you repeat those types for the record, please?
ovarian cancer, lung cancer, endometriosis, That's all I can think of at this time.
And are you aware of any children that died from asthma before or after Rita?
Yes, I am. Maybe about 4 to 7 children have passed away from conditions deriving from the poison that's being dumped on us and the conditions from Rita.
Now, you were very graphic, and thank you for the detail that you offered us at the beginning of your testimony, where you described gaping holes, you described chemicals continuously being brought into your community. What is the condition at this particular time in Mossville, Louisiana?
The conditions are deplorable. We have to buy drinking water. Most people's houses are still leaking. They're living in conditions with mold. Yards are full of debris. There's still plenty of trees down by the roots. The roots are up above the ground and the trees are everywhere.
Did Red Cross visit Mossville after Rita?
Red Cross is another joke.
Did FEMA visit Mossville after Rita?
FEMA is a fraud.
Thank you. And how many people would you say rent their homes as opposed to owning their homes in Mossville?
I would say maybe a quarter of the people rent.
And did those individuals following Rita, did those individuals have insurance, renter's insurance, any of them that you knew?
No, none of them that I know.
And do you know of any preparations or provisions that have been made for renters that lived in Mossville before Rita?
No, there's no preparations.
Are those individuals back in Mossville at this time?
Most of them are still out of town.
So is it your testimony that most of the renters are still currently displaced?
That's right.
Is there any plan in place that you know of to bring those individuals back?
None that I know of, no.
Okay. Now, I have something that might be a little bit of a comedy sketch type document, and I'm sorry I don't have copies, but I'm going to let you do the honors, Mr. Vincent, in presenting this evidence to the judges, and then we'll pass it along for them to take a look at, and we're going to put it in the record, but we're not going to keep your original, but we will copy it so that the record will be inclusive of this document. Can you tell us what it is?
It's a document signed by Grover Cleveland.
Is that Grover Cleveland one of the presidents of the United States?
Yes.
Can you read the document for us?
Let me see, to all it may, let me see, to all to whom these presents shall come greetings. I can't read the writing is too small for me to read.
Can you summarize that document for us?
Well, it's like a deed that was signed by Grover Cleveland to my great-great-grandfather, Eli Vincent, concerning the 600 acres of land that was acquired by him after he was freed from slavery, so say. And it's a document that says that the land is to never be sold, traded, or disposed of. So it's supposed to remain in the Vincent family for the duration.
They did a good job of that with the road, didn't they? And the museum.
Yes. Also, the railroads, which are in harmony with the plants, some of my ancestors granted them a right-of-way to put a track through the land. It was one track at the time. Now they have over 21 spurs that they park tank cars on full of chemicals right on top of the community, close to a school and a recreation center, and they're expanding tyranny everywhere.
And this land that's referred to by the president at that time, Grover Cleveland, is Mossville, isn't it?
That's right, Mossville.
And Mossville now is a storage space, basically. Is that right?
Basically, a storage place for toxic chemicals.
Okay. Is that in the agreement that's written there?
No, it's not.
Is that a provision in that particular document?
No, it's not.
Okay. Thank you for that. You can pass it to the judges for their review. And as we close, my name is Rohanna Jackson, and I'm 6 years old. I have trouble breathing all the time. When I'm sleeping, I have to use a breathing machine, and the doctors are surprised that I can't get better. I live in Mossville, and it has big plants and spitfire and toxins. That spitfire and toxins. I see lots of sick people, and I ask my mother why. Rohanna Jackson, Mossville. I pass the witness to the judges, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
There's been discussion of heightened rates of cancer, respiratory illnesses among the population of Mossville. There's, in the literature that was submitted, considerable discussion of dioxin contamination. Do you have any knowledge of rates of deformity in newborn children? The substance is known to be not only carcinogenic but mutagenic. And do you have any sort of data that we could access with regard to those rates among the population?
I think we do have material with those rates in it, yes. It may be some in this in the book here.
I didn't encounter any. I'll look again.
But we do have additional material that have a breakdown of just a lot of that. Yes.
If we could receive that, it would be very helpful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Oui, une question. Vous nous avez dit que la pollution des terres ayant entraîné des maladies qui ont entraîné aussi la mort.
You told us that the contamination of the land has led to deaths.
Cancer,
Cancers,
asthme pour les enfants,
asthma for the children,
occasionné par la pollution, par les industries.
resulting from industry
Ouais.
contamination.
Oui, que les autorités ont répondu
And that the authorities responded
qu'ils ne pouvaient empêcher la pollution
that
par
they,
les
could,
industries.
that they could do nothing to prevent the contamination by industry.
Ouais. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous préciser
Could you tell us more specifically
de quelles autorités s'agissait-il